Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Happy Pride Month.
Happy Pride.
Let's see how this
Show your colours.
sounds.
Come out the closet.
Come out the closet. Sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't hear me
It's
like
gonna
switching
be-
over a lot in my hand. No?
I don't hear it.
All right, well,
I think we're good.
anyway, guys, we're just switching it up tonight. We are not streaming a game, but if you follow us on Instagram, we are doing a podcast style of the Stonewall Riots of 1969, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I have nothing to know about this. This is all your idea, so I'm excited. So this is all new to me, so let's get educated. Let's get
Yeah.
let them know of the gay and the happiness.
History of Pride,
History.
of LGBTQ. Yeah. Okay. I'm ready. I'm nervous. I haven't done a
Nervous.
presentation since I was
In high
in
school?
school.
This is what school trained us for.
This is
It's
what
for
school
moments like
traumatized me
this.
for.
This is what the stress
Sure.
and the tears were all about back
Yeah.
in the day.
But
All right,
we're
but
gonna
anyways.
just talk, chat,
Yeah.
and learn. Because I didn't know. I mean, I knew about the Stonewall riots, but I had never learned about them. So I'm
I
excited
think
to
to
share
my
it.
extent, I've heard of it. There was a wall involved, craziness, but
Oh, wow.
it's about all I
Okay,
got,
all right.
so I'm
Let's get
excited for this.
started. Let's just do it. Okay, so we're gonna start with like pre-Stonewall, kind of like with gay history.
Okay.
So obviously, like in history, people in the LGBTQ community have faced social and legal harassment for their sexual orientation and have been criminalized based on people's belief in religion and certain morals. By the 1960s, homosexuality was clinically classified as a mental disorder, and most places in the U.S. had discriminatory laws that forbid same-sex relationships,
That's
as
crazy.
well as denied all basic rights to any person who was suspected of being gay.
See that's what I don't understand. Like, how can you label someone mental?
Yeah, they said that you're mentally ill because
You wasn't a straight man.
Yeah.
You wasn't straight.
Mhm.
You didn't do with the right person. That's just stupid. That's just adds to the. I don't know. That adds to.
It's just
Shit.
not. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't
to
make
me.
any sense. Thank you. Yeah. Lots of words right there.
But yeah, so even if you were just like suspected of being gay, they would
Yeah.
just be like, okay, no rights for
It-
you. And
it-
honestly, it's not. I mean, it is different today, but
Yeah.
like
I mean, hell, it's almost
crazy.
It almost sounds like the Salem witch trials in the fucking 1800s.
witch.
It's like you're getting fucking burned the next day. It's
yeah,
like
pretty
it's
much.
fucking crazy.
Hanged.
Uh,
Okay, so prior to Stonewall, there were like some gay movements, but that had begun publicly, but many people obviously lived in secret and couldn't fight because it could put them in like serious danger. So there was like a few, like there was a movement, but it just wasn't very public because it
Yeah.
was still super dangerous.
Exactly. It's crazy if you lose your
Your
potentially
life, yeah. Or just all your rights,
Exactly.
you know.
For loving.
So
No, like,
I don't want to I don't want to mute myself on accident. Okay, can you see? Yeah. Preach and teach. Okay. So, New York City became home to a large LGBTQ population, and it had a thriving gay nightlife scene. Gay bars became like the only place people could be open about their sexual orientation and not be scrutinized. So you could just be yourself, you know. Starting in 1934, after the end of the Prohibition, New York State Liquor Authority regulated liquor licenses, which prohibited the serving of liquor in disorderly establishments. And it included gay bars because gay was
disorderly.
illegal.
Down push
So
yeah, Jen down.
literally
Maine,
you
know,
couldn't
stupid.
you couldn't sell any alcohol at any gay bar.
God forbid someone catches a vibe with alcohol.
In
They
1934.
love someone instead of go home and punch their wife because of it. God forbid. Right? Priorities,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Fucking men love it. Anyways, prim and proper.
So, and then by 1969, activists had compelled the New York State Liquor Authority to overturn the policy because that was against issuing liquor licenses to gay bars.
So that was how long?
1969, and it was in 1934. Yeah,
So it took almost 20.
34 years. I mean, sorry, 35 years it took.
20, 30? Am I not
34
wrong?
to 69.
34. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm stupid.
35 years.
69.
Yeah.
Okay.
And owners were in favor of it because obviously they saw that there was so much profit that could be had catering to gay clientele. Gay clientele. Clientele. No, that wasn't intentional.
That was funny. I like that.
So, owners were in favor of like turning over the policy because they're like, we can make so much money off of these people, right?
That's all it comes back around to.
Yeah. So, let's see, where did I leave off? So they ended up joining with the activists, and once it was overturned, the gay bars could now get a liquor license and sell alcohol to its patrons. However, the police would claim that there was disorderly conduct due to a variety of minor liquor license infractions, which would then warrant arrests and raids. So, they were like, okay, you can... Raids, yeah. Yeah, so they're like, yeah, you can sell alcohol, but you're selling it in the wrong way, and I'm going to raid your bar and arrest people.
Damn. What the fuck? That's a corrupt shit right there. That's that double standard bullshit right there.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It is. I mean, that's bullshit.
Like, they appeased people. They didn't fix it. They just appeased them.
So fucking stupid. Anyway.
Okay, so and just on a side note, bar owners would then classify their establishment as a private club to avoid the regulations of liquor licensing because there was no liquor license required when the business was under this classification. So if you said, I have a private club, not a bar, you don't need a liquor license, and you don't.
Boy.
Yeah.
That don't sound fucking like a bad idea at all. A club with no regulations.
Yeah.
Fucking World War II in there almost.
So now I'm going to talk about the Stonewall Inn. So originally the Stonewall building was actually two separate buildings, and it's located in Greenwich, New York. And they were used as stables in the mid 19th century. So originally there were two separate buildings.
Okay.
Go to images.
Let's see, this looks pretty. Look at that.
I think that's it now.
So is this? Oh God! Not legal. Minor. So let's
If
see.
you that top right one,
This one?
yeah, that's like the original.
Okay.
What it looks like.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe make it bigger. Can you?
Can I make it bigger?
I don't know.
Probably not. That's the issue.
Anyways, so it was originally used as stables like in the mid 19th century, and it was like two separate buildings, so each door was a business, right? And then in 1930, the two buildings were combined, and they ended up housing a bakery.
Oh, a bakery, huh?
Yeah, and then in 1934, Bonnie's Stonewall opened as a popular restaurant and bar and operated until 1964.
Yeah.
So 30 years, pretty good.
Nice.
But then a fire broke out, and it completely destroyed the interior, and the owners couldn't afford to fix it. So
What's with bakeries and
they had to
fires,
shut
man?
down. Yeah.
Like, come
Well,
on.
it wasn't a bakery; it was a restaurant and
But
bar.
still, what's with restaurants and fires?
Yeah. So they
Yeah,
ended up
so
closing
tragic.
down in 1964.
Okay.
It was then purchased in 1967 by a mafia member from the Genovese family named Tony Lauria, also known as Fat Tony.
I'm about to say that's Fat Tony.
Look up Tony Lauria.
Alright,
I had never looked
I'm
him
not
up.
looking up Tony Lauria. I'm
Or
gonna
look
look
up Fat Tony.
Oh, let's go to a new tab for Fat Tony.
I never looked up
The Fat Tony.
the Fat Tony.
I gotta type with one hand. Sorry, guys. Fat.
Tony.
God. Fat Tony Stonewall. Let's see. All right, so here we go.
Tony
Looks
Lauria.
like your, almost your, I don't know, typical Staten
Oh,
Island kind of guy. You know.
I was in
Fuck
New
outta
York.
here.
What does it
Let's
even
see.
say?
Da-da-da.
Yeah. Okay. So Tony Lauria. I don't know
I'm
why
about
he's
to say,
called
this is
Fat
this is giving us a
Tony.
fact right here, but I think you're about to get into
He doesn't
this,
even
so.
look like fat. He doesn't look fat to me.
It's
Anyways,
Pizza la pasta.
so Lauria operated the Stonewall as a private bottle bar to avoid the liquor license regulations. And basically this meant that the customers were supposed to BYOB.
Bring
So
your own
you're supposed to
bitches.
like, no,
Oh, bottles.
bring your own booze.
Oh,
So,
booze. Oh, shit.
and Fat Tony is a gangsta.
Oh, yeah, watch out for Fat Tony. Hate to see that name and be that guy that shows up. Talk about disappointment. Anyways.
So due to there being little police enforcement of local laws at the time, Fat Tony was able to cut a lot of corners on safety and hygiene of the Stonewall Inn. So bartenders had no access to running water behind the bar. So often drinks were served in dirty glasses. They couldn't wash their hands. Like there was no running water in the back of the bar.
Talk about backwash, man. You might have to just drink your beer and spit it in my mouth.
Yeah, so they would just
That's
dump it and then they would just
disgusting.
reserve in the same glass.
Like, I feel like
So
you're better off
gross.
just pissing in it. It's at least more hygienic. Like, that's disgusting.
Many gay rights groups actually blamed the Stonewall for an outbreak of hepatitis among its customers at one point.
Damn gays be fucking in the bathroom.
Well, no, it's just spread on the glasses because
But
it's
that's
dirty and
stupid.
gross. I don't even know how hepatitis is spread, but
But you gotta think of it like this too. Like these people back in this time didn't have the knowledge of hygiene like we do now.
yeah.
So it's almost so weird that someone can just
Like that's
point the
unimaginable
blame
now.
to someone.
What do you mean?
They pointed the blame.
Oh, just said that it was,
It was their fault.
yeah.
Like how do you do that? Like it's a fucking human. Like
Yeah.
I can't comprehend that. But and people ran with that for years. Like
Okay.
anyways, I'm getting my
Okay,
rant.
so the alcohol that was served at the Stonewall was actually rumored to be bootlegged or stolen. So they ended up serving alcohol, but it was, like bootlegged. And it was actually watered down. They would water it down, but then still sell it at top shelf prices.
They got the Applebee's special.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or whatever. So the Stonewall also lacked a back door. So the only exit or entrance was the very narrow front door. And the front door went into like a little vestibule. So it was just like the front door goes into like a little room and then it
Yeah.
goes into like the main bar.
I think this is one of the reasons why codes were put in place for
Yeah.
buildings because that's kind of a hazard.
Yeah, and there's no back door. So there's one way
God
in and
forbid something
out.
happens,
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
So to get into the bar, you had to get past a bouncer and then you had to pay a cover charge. It was
Shocker.
usually $1 on weekdays and then $3 on weekends.
I'd be throwing dollars in the air.
That's a lot back then, I feel like, because
yeah.
I mean, in our town it's $5, maybe 10, but
Yeah.
hardly
But
unless there's a show. But that's kind of crazy.
Shiny dollar.
Back in the day. Okay, anyways. And then you also had to sign like a club registry because it helped them maintain the exclusivity of like the private club.
I get that, I guess.
So that if they ever were questioned, if they were like even a private club, they were like, yeah, we have a registry. But then also people would just end up using fake names like Donald Duck, Judy Garland. Like they would just end up using the stupidest names because they don't. Well, and it's because it's out of their own safety because they don't want to be outed. They don't want to get in trouble. They're going there to be themselves in a safe space. So, so the Stonewall's interior was painted black, and they literally just painted over the fire damage from 1964. They didn't even fix it. They just painted. They gave it the landlord special and
hold on, you need to see the inside of this now.
and painted it black.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any pictures of the inside. And then there was also I don't know if you could see it in that picture that you had up. That might be current though.
Yeah. This looks.
Because it was just it was painted completely black inside.
There's camera
And
here,
then
here.
that's outside.
Yeah, but still. Kaishi.
Can you go back to that picture you had before? I want to see if you could see. I don't know like when that's from.
This is from 1969.
Oh, okay. So then they also had just like plywood on that front window, and then they painted that black. So the entire,
you could see it right there.
the whole thing was just black on the inside, like just a hole, and one door. That's it. So So then there were even rumors of like extortion where employees would single out wealthy customers and who weren't like out to the public,
Yeah.
and they would be like, give me,
Blackmail 'em.
blackmail them wanting money, and
Yeah.
or yeah,
I'll tell you a secret.
yeah, snitchy.
What would Margarita think at home?
Yeah, and it would
Tony.
mainly be like white men who like had wives at home that were there, and this ended up being like the most profitable part of having these gay bars in this time period was extorting wealthy customers.
shit.
Yeah, they wouldn't make much money on the rest of the stuff
I
except for
mean-
extorting people.
I mean, what do businessmen do? They do the same shit. So I mean,
So,
gotta do what you gotta do to make that money.
yeah. So, but unfortunately, even with the terrible working conditions and business tactic, the gay bars wouldn't exist without the mafia, and because they mainly the mafia owned like these gay bars.
Yeah.
And so these people of the LGBTQ community wouldn't have any place to like be themselves. So they weren't gonna snitch on them or report them or anything, because then it would literally take away their only like freedom. The Stonewall was in the heart of gay life in New York, and it had customers among the most marginalized people of the LGBTQ community, including unhoused individuals, people of color, trans people, and even drag performers. And it was home to a large group of people who couldn't afford or weren't welcome in other places. Ooh, we got an ad. Hold on. How long is the ad? Oh, there's only 2. Anybody else seeing an ad? Or is it just us?
I don't know.
I don't know if everybody gets them at the same
I
time.
wonder if I thought they would. I guess not. I mean, just
I would assume they would.
you have 2.
I don't want to talk and then just be on an ad. That says it ends in 1 minute and 20 seconds. Dang.
Oh. Can't wait for dinner. I'm so excited.
So hungry.
Non-pizzas.
Ad is over. Okay. I think
Thank
we're
you
good.
for letting us know. Beautiful. It's what we need to know.
Okay, so anyways, okay, so basically it was just like a really cheap bar compared to these other clubs and bars. They would either have like a monthly subscription, or they would, have really expensive cover charges to where these people couldn't afford it, that were unhoused or whatever their situation was.
Yeah.
They couldn't. This was like one of the places that they could afford.
Love affordability.
Affordability. Okay. So in the 19th and 20th century, gay and lesbian bars were subject to various oppressive forms of social control. Every night, police would patrol these bars and raid them if there was any disorderly conduct. So they would literally like be looking for any homosexual
Anything,
acts,
bro.
and then they would just arrest people
Disorderly.
on site. There was also another law that was put into place around this time that was called, hold on, I have the name. It's called the 3-piece gender appropriate clothing law. So basically, you had to have 3 pieces of clothing that matched your assigned gender at birth, or else you would get arrested. So if anybody was like, and at the time they called it cross-dressing, if anybody was cross-dressing, they would get arrested, just automatically. I mean, yeah. So,
I mean, you dress up for work. What the fuck is the difference?
yeah.
Like, literally, like, what harm is being done?
Nothing. That's the thing.
God forbid someone's eyes lays on that and they turn to stone. Like, what the fuck? What, someone's got a bigger
Yeah.
ass than you? Fucking. What's death? Like, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
Wow,
It's crazy. So mafia owners would end up being tipped off before these the raids on the bars, so that way they could prepare. But of course, they wouldn't prepare for the customers. They would just prepare for themselves, so that way they could, if they were selling bootlegged alcohol, they would prepare themselves to not get in trouble, not their customers. They
Save themselves,
right.
fuck the customers. That's where the money comes from. But anyways.
Yeah. So bars, if anything happened, bars would be shut down after raids. But it was super easy for the owner to just relocate and then open with another liquor license under a different name. Damn. Like, it's not that hard. So the only people that were really suffering from the raids were the members of the community that were attending the bars that got arrested.
Just trying to have a good time.
Just trying to have a good time.
Just trying to shake that.
So the Stonewall was raided an average of once a month.
Yeah.
And
this little last place?
Yeah.
Sorry, let me go back to that. This little last place got constantly just...
Yeah, so like once a month, they would get raided. Completely raided.
I wonder if they ever found anything, like even worse.
I don't know.
My mic's dripping.
I mean, the people, the customers.
I mean, the customers,
or the employees,
yeah, but
maybe.
in all retrospect, you take that away. Is there anything actually going on?
No.
They dealing
It's
drugs.
just,
They
no.
dealing fucking human trafficking. Like, huh?
Yeah. So, and then like in that same week that the riots were, they had already been raided that week too.
Of course they were. Why not?
So on June 28th, 1969, in the wee hours of the morning, so it was like around 2 a.m.
Damn.
Basically like like when the bars are like starting to close.
Yeah.
The police started an all too routine raid at the Stonewall Inn. But the bar wasn't tipped off this time because they had just had a raid that week. So they're like, "Oh, we're good for another month," you know? So, the raid was led by NYPD Deputy Inspector Seymour Pine. Seymour Butts.
I love that name.
Armed with a warrant, police officers enter the club and start interrogating employees and patrons of the bar. And those who had identification and weren't clearly breaking any laws were slowly released, while the others were held in the bar awaiting their arrest. The employees that were selling the bootleg booze and the cross-dressers were the most visible lawbreakers, so they were the most vulnerable to arrest. Only like a few of the drag queens or kings and queens got away in the commotion, but most of them were caught. Yeah.
Wow.
And once they were like detained, the female officers would take the drag performers into the bathroom and they would undress them to check their sex.
What the fuck? Okay, not
to make sure that they're breaking that invading
someone's human or someone's privacy.
Yeah.
Human decency.
Yeah. Just to make sure that they're wearing the right clothes as their assigned gender.
The script. If someone did that to that cop, how the fuck would they feel?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Terrible.
Like, they weren't even a fucking people.
Nope.
Like a whole like Amazonian tribe and shit.
So residents of the neighborhood ended up like starting to gather around the outside, and they were starting to get super agitated because people were coming out of the bar in handcuffs and they were being like brutally manhandled by police, like just throwing them around. People recall a mysterious butch lesbian, that's what it says, that was being arrested due to not complying with the 3-piece gender appropriate clothing law. And it was rumored to be Storm de la Vie. I don't know how to say it. You can look it up.
Let's see. I'm going to need some help with that spelling.
So it's Storm with an E.
Oh.
Right there.
That looks like a delapia.
Yeah, so Storm
okay.
was a black lesbian who wore men's clothing. And she patrolled the streets of Greenwich every night to prevent any violence in the streets. Yeah. And she said that she wanted to prevent any ugliness. Like, those were her words. She wanted to prevent ugliness in the streets. So she would just parole and just like prevent just just chat with people and just make
Yeah.
sure there's nothing shady going on.
What a demure way to put that.
Yeah.
Damn, look at that gangster right
Yeah.
there, bro. The whole pipe and everything. Fuck, what is that, a fedora?
Mhm.
I'm not good with my hat styles, but I know what that is.
She ended up being hit over the head by the officer that she was being arrested by when she yelled out that her cuffs were too tight. So she was trying to let them know that her cuffs were too tight, and they hit her over the head.
Wow.
So
Like it's a, I don't want to say an animal. Like what? Like to just do that to another human being, I don't understand.
yeah.
For no reason.
So as she was bleeding from the head, she turned to the crowd and she called out for someone to take action. She was like, somebody do something. You see this happening and nobody's doing anything. All you are standing there and you're just looking.
Letting it happen.
Like, somebody do something. So this is when everything exploded.
Okay.
Within minutes, a full-blown riot involving hundreds of people began. And people started throwing beer cans, pennies, cobblestones.
Ooh, imagine getting pelted with a penny in the eye or some shit, bro.
And just
Ooh.
any object they could find, they're like throwing at the
yeah.
police.
Damn.
And everybody was just like surrounding the police, so they ended up pushing the police back into the Stonewall. So now they're like stuck in there, and
No
they
way out.
barricaded themselves in.
Look at that. One door comes to bite you in the ass, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So one person who was fighting was Marsha P. Johnson. She was a black trans woman and activist, and she was rumored to have thrown the first brick at the police. However, her whole entire life, she maintained the story that she did not do that. She got there after the riot had already started. She was like, I don't claim that.
Hell yeah.
I didn't throw the first brick.
Hell yeah,
I just
queen.
came up on it.
I just,
Yeah.
hey, what happened? What was her name again? Martha?
Martha P. Johnson. Marsha. Sorry, Marsha.
Marsha.
Marsha P. Johnson.
I know there's got to be a picture of that brick being thrown. Look at that queen right there. Let's see. Where's that brick at?
She doesn't claim it.
She really does not claim it. There's no one. Brick. Through brick right there. Boom.
Yeah, no, there's not gonna. I don't.
Dang.
But yeah, there's just like rumors
Left
and
no
like
trace.
supposedly multiple witnesses that like say that she was the
Yeah,
first brick
okay.
thrower, but she won't claim it. She doesn't. Nope.
Not all heroes wear capes.
No. Yeah.
Sometimes they wear a dress.
Um.
I'm really mad there's no picture of that. I wanted to see that brick being thrown.
Well, no, there's like no pictures, anyways.
Girl, you
but-
never know back then. You'd be surprised. Look at that. Boom.
Anyway, so rioters ended up bursting through the barricades that the police had made inside the bar, because and they ended up using a parking meter, and they like burst through the doors, and because like the police had put chairs and whatever they could find up against the door.
Stack
and
it
they
up, we're in
just took-
trouble.
They just, I mean, there's hundreds of people out there. You expect that to like hold them? Yeah, no.
You fuck around, the more you fuck around, the more you
And
find out. So.
yeah, so they ended up trying to set fire to the inside of the bar as well multiple times and failed, but then the final time caught fire to where New York Fire Department came out, and the fire department ended up like dousing the flames and got everyone out, but everybody was still on the street, and it took hours to get everybody out and away. And people were angry and just rioting.
Yeah.
So then the next night, thousands more had come back to the Stonewall Inn to taunt the police.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Don't let up.
So there was like violence that broke out that night as well as the days following, but it never was as violent as like the first night. But the riot ended up lasting 6 days. 6 days.
Bro, that's what you call
So just
consistent
constant,
right there.
like
Hell
people
yeah.
were outside just trying to fight for their rights.
Yeah.
And
Basic human rights that they should be receiving with no questions asked.
yep. And people ranged like from in front of the bar, and then like people were in nearby streets, and one of the streets was called Christopher Street, and I believe it's actually the street that like it's on. But they were like, in the neighborhoods surrounding, and even in a neighboring park called Christopher Park. So people were just gathering, and it was more peaceful, but it was still people like, angry. Yeah. As the days went on, members of the community would gather to spread information instead of fight. And even the police had become less confrontational, like, over time. So
like a Dane just said, resistance, persistence.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sister, preach that shit.
So there ended up being like a few articles, obviously, that came out in the days that it was happening.
Yeah.
And there was one article that you can read more about that caused like a short stint of violence. Like people were super upset about what the article said, but it had only lasted like a couple hours, so it wasn't like terrible. It wasn't like the first night. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it on that. So it lasted 6 days, and then people kind of just fizzled out. Nothing got resolved, but
But I mean,
then later in time, things happen. But June 28th, 1970, it marks the 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall police raid. And so gay activists in New York organized the Christopher Street Liberation March to celebrate the city's first Gay Pride Week.
Yeah, that's cool.
So on the 1-year anniversary. The parade, it started small, but it ended up spanning 15 city blocks, and it encompassed thousands of people. So just like as they were walking, people would just continue to join.
Just kept adding on.
And then it ended up spanning 15 blocks. That's
cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Those are some of the funnest parades I've
Yeah.
been
The parade's official chant was "Say it loud, gay is proud." Yeah. So this is like basically the first gay parade or like gay pride parade.
Less than a year after the riots took place.
Yeah. So inspired by New York's parade movement, activists in other cities organized gay pride celebrations that same year. And these cities include LA, San Francisco, Boston, and Chicago. The uprising was also a key turning point to the explosive growth in a movement that had begun in the U.S. in the 1950s, because obviously, like I said, there were other movements, and you can find those, like when you look it up, you can see the other movements that happened before, but they just weren't as public, because obviously New York is like the media capital at this time. Like, if it's going to happen anywhere, it should have happened in New York. And it was multiple days, so then people found out about it. And there was a ton of articles written about it. And so
like in the day, New York was like, I feel like the heartbeat of America almost.
yeah, like the media at least. Yeah.
At least, definitely.
Yeah. So it had sparked the next major phase of gay liberation movement, which included more radical political action and assertiveness during the 1970s. So this, like before this, people weren't taking as much action or like as much serious political action. Groups such as the Gay Liberation Front, the Gay Activists Alliance, Radical Lesbians, and the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries were organized within months of Stonewall. So shortly after, all these things started.
Movement to create communities.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I just want to make sure there's... Hold on, let me snooze this. Uh-oh. This says there's going to be an ad break, but...
It's also crazy to think that 6 days of just no violence, just persistence, resistance. I like that.
Yeah. It's like
I
people
like
didn't want to
to-
fight physically. It was just they want to get their word out.
All it took was a little pushback, but yet it's still. I know it didn't do much, but it shouldn't have the result.
It did much. Look at everything that happened after.
Yeah, you're right. Not
Yeah.
to discredit that, but it's just crazy what stemmed from that. Because like usually, it usually stems from violence that change happens almost.
Yeah.
It's nice to see
Sometimes,
something
yeah.
that results in peacefulness that gets the results you want.
Yeah. So the Stonewall Inn ended up going out of business shortly after the uprising. And there's an ad.
Yeah. And there's an ad.
I don't want to talk when there's people on an ad.
I know we don't
I'm
know if
almost
it
done,
like
but
miss out or what, but we don't want to risk
I literally
it.
am like on my last little conclusion.
It's a nice little run.
There's a 4.
It's weird because this one like this
Doesn't have ads, yeah.
But these do. Like, I'm so confused.
I know.
This is that adds a progress, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
But this one's kind of behind too, so.
I don't know if you guys can hear us or not, but I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast style presentation of the Stonewall. Riots.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I didn't know to this extent by any means, so this is awesome to get to understand it more.
Yeah.
So that way, when our parade is this Saturday, and if someone says Stonewall, I'm like, I know what the fuck that is.
Mhm.
My wife knows a lot. You want to talk to her? I'm just an ally.
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 Oh. Ally.
Do, 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 do. Ads are over, I hope. Yes. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, I'm on the last part. So the Stonewall ended up going out of business shortly after the uprising, and it ended up being leased as 2 separate businesses over the years.
Shame.
From 1987 through 1989, a bar named Stonewall operated out of 51 Christopher Street, so that's one of the things. When it closed, the historical Stonewall Inn vertical sign was taken down, and the whole interior there was no interior that remained the same. It was completely redone on the inside. No sign.
Let's go to a now photo. That's probably what we're seeing. Yeah, so here's the outside now.
In 1990, 53 Christopher Street, so the other one, was leased to a new bar named New Jimmy's at Stonewall Place. And about a year later, the bar's owner changed the name to Stonewall.
Oh, nice.
The current management that owns it now bought the bar in 2006 and has operated it as the Stonewall Inn ever since. The building's existing 50-foot wide facade looks much as it did at the time of the uprising in 1969. So they completely restored the inside or the outside and some of the inside, but
here's the inside. This is a 2025.
Yeah.
So this is the inside of
and then the outside they completely restored to the original.
Yeah, the outside, where is that at? I have that right here. That's the outside right now.
Yeah. Looks pretty cool.
That's crazy.
And in 1989, in honor of the 20th anniversary of the uprising, the section of Christopher Street in front of the Stonewall Inn was renamed to Stonewall Place.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. The importance of Stonewall was further recognized with the installation of George Siegel's sculpture, Gay Liberation, in Christopher Park in 1992. So there's an art piece if you want to look it up. In Christopher Park, it's called Gay Liberation.
Let me delete some of these out of here. I got a lot. Let's see, we got Gay Liberation Movement.
Art or sculpture. Or you could put, yeah.
Let's see it.
Oh, so there's multiple pieces, or there's 2 things. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that still exists or still stands in Christopher Park, but it was installed in 1992. Yeah.
Crazy. Simple.
Stonewall was later designated a New York City landmark by the new NYC Landmarks Preservation Commission in 2015. A New York State Historic Site by Governor Andrew Cuomo in 2016, and then it became a national monument by President Barack Obama in 2016.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so it's a national monument.
You know what? I think I actually saw that. Where was that one at? Is it through this one?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, what's this one? So at the bottom, I noticed. So here it is right here.
Oh, like a little memorial.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it says Oh, this is after the shooting. The Stonewall Inn was the site of a vigil. This is in June 2016. President Obama designed Stonewall National Monument, the first national monument dedicated to telling the story of the fight for LGBTQ plus rights. I believe our national park should reflect the full story of our country. That's what I got.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's all I have today for that.
Well, that was awesome. That was fun. I like that. That was a different page.
Yeah.
I was
I really enjoyed learning about that. That was pretty cool. Yeah, and so our Pride theme, our Pride Parade theme for our city this year is the Stonewall Riots of 1969. And so, yeah, so when I heard that, I was like, I don't even know what that is. I mean, I've heard of it, but like I've never learned about it. I never knew about it.
We just learned tonight what it was about, thanks to you.
Yeah.
Because you put that all together, so thank you for that. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yay, thank you.
Yay, thank you for everyone that tuned
Hopefully
in.
you guys like something a little different.
Right? Man, I feel like I gotta do something now. That was you did that like really well, dude. Like you set a high standard there. That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was really good.
Yeah, so thanks for everybody who tuned in and whoever's watching afterwards. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll definitely do something like this again. That was fun.
That was
super chill.
We just gotta pay attention to what's happening in the world to see what's worth it, I guess.
Yeah.
It was opportunistic because we have the Pride Parade this weekend.
Theme.
Maybe I can do a presentation on the heat.
Okay.
And hydration.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Whatever. Thank you. This was really good. Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
Time for us to go make some dinner. When are we back? We are back
next
Sunday?
week. No. Oh, Sunday. Yeah. Sunday.
Yeah, we're back next week.
We're going to do a Stony stream.
Stony stream on
of course.
Sunday.
Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Sunday, Tuesday,
next
Wednesday.
Week.
Okay. Well, guys, we're going to leave you with that. Spread the word about our channel still. We are now affiliate.
And thank you to our first subscriber, Nick Will, with his Prime membership. He's subscribed to us.
If you guys don't want to pay for the membership to subscribe, you can subscribe through your Prime membership for free.
Yeah, you just have to link.
And it still benefits us.
You got to link your Prime membership with your Twitch account. And then when you go to subscribe, it'll say subscribe with Prime, and then you can click it, and it's free for you, but it gives us the subscription. So so it's a win-win for everybody.
It is. So you know, we're out here just trying to enjoy this as much as we can.
Yeah.
So
have fun.
Yeah, have fun.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on Sunday.
All right, guys.
Okay, bye.